Hello, 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 everyone. If you can hear me, can I get a thumbs up? I want to make sure my voice, okay, cool, is in the room. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much for being with us. I think we had a couple of drop-offs right when things started. So I am going to kind of be multitasking here a little bit to see what happened to one of our panelists. But good morning. I am calling today, calling in from Santa Marta, Colombia, where we just finished the first ever conference to talk about the transition away from fossil fuels. And Jackie and I and Chisholm Legacy Project was one of the co-stewards and the co-leads of the Afro-descendant sector. And this was really historic for us because it is the first time Afro-descendants have been invited as a recognized constituency groups alongside the other CSOs. So it was a really historic moment. We are so grateful and blessed that we could be a part of it. And very timely because we also just dropped Fossil Fuel Foolery 3.0. It's one of our favorite series, it's one of our favorite things to engage in. It's one of y'all's favorite thing to engage in and with from what we've heard. And so we're super excited today to talk more about the paper, hear from some incredible experts by way of our panelists, and just kind of get the conversation going about how timely this all is and the historic moment that we're in, and how we're going to explicitly call things out for the foolery that they are, but also talk about how our communities, as usual, are at the helm of solutions. So yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves. Just brief introductions, y'all, because we're really going to get into it. And not a lot of time, so I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak. I don't know if I introduce myself, Cheryl Kopong with the Chisholm Legacy Project, a senior programs manager. Very glad to be here. And yeah, everyone just, say your name, your organization, where you're calling from, and your pronouns, she, her. And I'll pass it to our only brother in the room first to give you a little reverse space. Keyshawn, you go ahead and kick us off.
Wow, I appreciate that. Oftentimes, that is very rare. So I'm glad to be in a room that looks like this. That means I know that I'll be receiving a lot. My name is Keyshawn Pearson. I am the executive director of Memphis Community Against Pollution. We started out as Memphis Community Against the Pipeline. And so it has been an incredible transition in fighting for environmental justice and climate justice in Southwest Memphis. And all across our country, we have been able to influence a lot of legislation federally. So glad to be here, glad to offer whatever it is I can to this beautiful moment. And I will pass it over to Ms. Jackie.
Certainly. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jackie Patterson with the Chisholm Legacy Project, and I'm based in Maryland, but here with Cheryl in Columbia at the at the convention to end fossil fuels. And I will pass it over to Sister Roy.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to be here amongst such brilliant minds. I'm Rashida Ozan. I am the founder, director, and CEO of the Vessel Project of Louisiana, and I have to admit that I am experiencing FOMO because I was so intrigued to go to Santa Marta and be in community with you all fighting. But as you know, I lost my son in December and decided to go on sabbatical and just take a mental health break. But I have just been feeling like I've been missing out on so much. I am located in Lake Charles, Louisiana on the Gulf Coast, and happy to be here today. And I'm going to pass it over to Kim.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry about your son. Thank you so much to everybody for inviting me to be a part of this conversation, and also for you all for being in Santa Marta right now. My name is Kim Fracek. I use she, her pronouns. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania. I'm the director of a group called Sane Energy Project. We've been organizing for about 15 years against local and interstate gas pipelines and trying to move us on to a publicly owned renewable energy economy that centers community and energy democracy. And I will pass it to Kaishan.
It's like a keys, Keyshawn. But oh
Oh
no,
no,
no, you're talking about Kaishawn for real. Okay, never
yeah.
mind.
Whose name is actually also like Keyshawn.
Okay, so
Um,
it is. Okay. Keyshawn.
yes, yes. And as you can see, Jackie's in here twice. Our other panelist who is calling in from Zimbabwe, and is one of the, or no, she's not calling in from Zimbabwe. She's also at the Santa Marta conference, but she's from Zimbabwe and was one of the incredible, dynamic youth leaders in the space, and actually was one of the spokespeople for the youth and children for the children and youth sector, their constituency group. And so she's having like internet issues. As you can see, Jackie's in here twice. My lights keep flickering in the back, so it's a little iffy. She's trying to join on her phone now, so I'm trying to make sure that she has that link. So again, apologies if you see me looking down. We'll get her into the room quick. But with that, we've got a lot to get through and not so much time. So let's get it started. All right. Oh, sorry. I like to see your faces as I um talk. So I'll be reading questions off of my phone. So yeah, to give us a little bit of context and to kind of make it personal to your communities, I would love for each of you to give us a very brief 2-minute summary of the harms that the fossil fuel industry has caused in your community. Um, so yeah, I'll pass it over to Roy Shadow first, I think.
Cheryl, sorry. Cheryl, sorry. Can you hear me?
Ooh, you're echoing twice. Let me see if I can remove
Cheryl,
you.
oops, can you hear me? No.
Okay, try now.
Okay. Yeah. So I was actually on twice because my internet keeps going in and out. But I'm supposed to
Yeah.
do, yeah, I don't know if you got the latest itinerary, but
Okay,
I'm supposed to
I
do the
didn't.
report overview. So I don't know.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to run
I'm
into
so
it. You
sorry
go
about that.
ahead.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I'll just do that really quickly because then that'll give us like that overarching frame and then folks can go through. So sorry about that. Okay. So thank you. I think Keyshawn is going to do the slides. Thanks, Keyshawn. So I'm just going to do a little bit of an overview of the report because the folks who are on this call are the people whose work we're really highlighting in the report. But this kind of gives you the overarching frame, and then from there we'll be able to dive into the individual experiences. And so I'm not going to take long at all because that's really what we want to hear about is those individual experiences. Next slide. So the report really was this came out of this idea of came out of what we experienced so much as frontline communities constantly with the industry trying to bamboozle us and trying to use these manipulation tactics on our communities, but also the way that they hold so much influence over our political structures in domestically and in the United States as well as globally. So I'm just going to go quickly through some of those deception tactics. We named 10 in the report. Hopefully someone will be able to put the link to the report in the chat so people can see that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the victories. And so we'll hear firsthand from some of the victories, both domestically and globally. And then I'll just end with what you can do. And that'll be just super brief at the end. Next slide. Yeah, so as we know, transition is inevitable, but justice is not guaranteed. And that's why we're so glad the people on the call and others are really on the case to make sure that justice is guaranteed. Next slide. So these are the 10 tactics that we exposed when we did the report. We first did the report in 2017, I think. And then we did it again in 2021. And here we are 5 years later doing it here. So these 10 tactics invest in efforts to undermine democracy, finance political campaigns and pressure politicians, fund Biased scientific research, claim regulations hurt low-income communities, deny or understate health harms, deflect responsibility and shift blame, co-opt community leaders, exaggerate job creation. Thanks, Anastasia. Praise false solutions and embrace renewables to control the market. And we put embrace in quotes. Next slide. So just kind of breaking down some of the tactics, and you'll see all this in the reports. Hopefully you'll read it. So I'm just going to go quickly through these, and then we'll hear much more from the panelists, and you'll read much more in the report itself. So undermining democracy, like donating money to push voter suppression laws. People may or may not have heard just yesterday the Supreme Court struck down a major component of the Voting Rights Act. So these kinds of, when we have certain people in power, these are the types of things that happen. And the fossil fuel lobbyists are ensuring that certain people are in power so that we have these types of, and it all is a cascading effect, even though the judges aren't voted on, they're appointed by people that we do vote on. And so who we vote on definitely matters, because we see what happens when certain appointments are made and then certain decisions are made. So whether it's donating money to politicians to advance voter suppression, making sure that lobbyists are in certain places, and being able to successfully pass laws that criminalize protests, that even quell dissension, and that ExxonMobil actually sued its own shareholders to block climate-related resolutions. So next slide. And so there were $150 million spent in 2024 alone around these types of tactics, and even more in the election years. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent to advance pollution, to advance fossil fuels. Next slide. So financing politicians, relatedly, Ohio's Empowerment Alliance, the gas-based dark money group, spent millions of dollars to legally redefine natural gas as green energy. We know that even the White House influenced the EU in terms of delaying environmental disclosure laws. And I think, in the report, there's more about FPIC, and we mentioned it actually, in several places. And again, the amount of money that was spent on lobbying. Next slide. And then similarly, as we said, in terms of the $7 million that was spent in California to advance a policy that again was directly against the benefit of the public. Next slide. And of course, we know how even these resource wars are, and some of the actions that we're taking are directly tied to really maintaining this strangle on our energy economy. So Columbia researchers found that that in a number of the reports that have come out, again, they looked at 1.7 million sentences from 1,706 reports, and they found that in universities that are funded by the fossil fuel industry, their research comes out in favor of whatever it is the fossil fuel companies want to come out in favor of. And so that happens throughout the academia, and again, that's well researched and well documented. The fossil fuel funding was accepted by Columbia's Center on Global Energy. They accepted $15 million and produced research that was in favor of gas expansion. Next slide. And so again, it's that we put it out as a kind of a comic book, but it's definitely dark humor, to say the least, in terms of how funny it is. But again, just the sheer idiocy of some of the things that they say in terms of climate change and its impacts being a hoax. Next slide. So claiming regulations hurt people who are poor, quote unquote. So the American Gas Association called electrification a racist policy because it attacks Black cooking culture, as if the AGA cares about Black cooking culture. And there's so many examples of these types of ways that they use popular culture, what they interpret as popular culture, against us and our well-being and our yeah, and what we need. Next slide. So I'm actually going to skip through because the slide, oh good, glad the Kundai is back. All right, the slide changing, because I'm not changing my own slides, it's going slower, and I want to make sure we get to the Q&A. But you all know what the tactics are: denying or underestimating health harms and the ways that they're fueling that. Next slide. Yeah, deflecting responsibilities. Next slide. Recognizing that even, oh, but slide before that, sorry. Yeah, so even denying the fact that it is obviously that every year we break the last year's record in terms of record heat, and making it sound like, again, the making fun of it, the woke weather. Next slide. Co-opting community leaders. And we all will hear more about that, I think, from our panelists. Next slide. Next slide. Exaggerating job creation, literally place after place, where they'll claim that these jobs are going to benefit the community, but yet they bring in people from other places that take the jobs. So only over 70% of the LNG construction workers in the Gulf Coast were imported from out of state, leaving the local communities with only temporary low-wage roles. In Alaska, 45% of the workers were non-residents. And again, with Shell also, falsely claiming building the local economy. Next slide. Next slide. And then praising false solutions, of course, everything from carbon capture and sequestration, and otherwise. Next slide. Blue hydrogen, etc. Yeah, okay, next slide. And finally, embracing renewables to control the market. So like claiming to embrace renewables, but making the least investment possible. And also to the extent that they're also trying to make this they say you can't put the new wine in old wine skins. And it's really the same companies that are about profits over people that are now even trying to claim the renewable energy market. So I am going to stop here because even though there was a little bit more, I think we can talk about it later, but I want to quickly hand it back to Cheryl so she can take us through the panelists. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. There's so much there. And we know that. So y'all go through, read the report because it really does break it down in a way that is so accessible and clear, in order for you to share with the right people. I mean, like, I might be biased, but I think that the messaging is really, really good. And it was really, really incredibly put together. So yes. And Kundi, if you wanna get introduce yourself quickly, because I know, and feel free to stay off camera because I know your bandwidth is low if you're able to, but just really quick to introduce yourself because everyone else did.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Kundai Ngwena and I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm with the Africa Center for Governance, and our work specializes in women and gender, children and persons with disabilities in particular, and then the just energy transition. That is the root cause of the matter. And then, of course, climate diplomacy and media. My experience cuts across from national to UNFCC level. So I'm happy to be here and sharing the insights. And yeah, let's see. Yeah, this is me in video,
Okay.
just in case. So yeah, at least when I speak, you can be able to relate with the bubbly face, I guess. Yes. So back to you, Cheryl.
Yes, thank you so much. She's been holding me down during this conference and all of the crazy things. So I'm so grateful that we can all be here together. So yeah, let's just um, kick it off, just giving so that folks can have a little bit of context. If everyone could go around and just again talk about a brief summary, 2-minute summary or less about the harms that the fossil fuel industry has caused in your community slash nation. We'll start back to you, Roishetta.
Hi, everybody. Of course, thank you so much, Jackie, for that. And yes, please go through and read the report because there's a lot of information there. And I know sometimes to some of us it can sound redundant. It can sound like I already know this, I've heard this before, but every day you learn something new. And even living here with 14 facilities less than a mile from my backyard, I also learn something new every day listening to people. So I encourage you all to read the report in its fullness. But I'm here in Louisiana. Sometimes people want to, connect me to Cancer Alley, which Cancer Alley is an 85-mile stretch that's between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. I actually live in a small town called, I live in an area called Carlis. My address says Sulphur. Because in the southern states there are so many small communities, so many little small areas that aren't really incorporated or are out of city limits. So that's just to give you a vision of where I live. But here, where I live in Sulphur, we have dozens of petrochemical and LNG facilities that are in both Calcasieu and Cameron Parish. I live on the border of Calcasieu and Cameron Parish. But when we talk about Louisiana, Louisiana is a vibrant tapestry of culture. It's why people want to come here. It's the best food in the world. You can argue which part of the state has the best food because if you come here, New Orleans is going to say they have the best food. Southwest is going to say they have the best food. The East is going to say they have the best. The North is going to say they have the best. But you can't negate the fact that good food comes from Louisiana. And a lot of that is because our food is local. We get our seafood from the Gulf. We get a lot of our seasonings from here. The rice comes from here. We grow it. It's ours. We know what's in it. But that is all being threatened by harmful industries, such as petrochemical and LNG facilities. And these facilities are being funded by major banks. So what does that look like? It looks like when you're deciding where you want to go on vacation next year and you say, I want to go to the Jazz Fest or I want to go to Mardi Gras, those things are directly under attack by industry. And so what does that look like for you? You may think, well, Louisiana doesn't mean anything to me. I live in this part of the state. I live in this part of the world. But a lot of the nation's seafood comes from the Gulf. A lot of the those beautiful magnolia trees, the cotton that comes from here, the rice, the beans, the soy, a lot of that comes right here from the Gulf. And so we have to make sure that we're protecting that we're protecting that heritage, those festivals, the culture, the seafood, and the way of life, the people. Because when you're over there enjoying Gulf shrimp, just know that a fisherman, that's his livelihood. He's out there fishing, trying to catch that shrimp. And right now, with these LNG facilities that are along the Gulf, it's hard. It's hard for him to catch shrimp. It's hard for him to feed his family. It's hard for him to make a living because they're poisoning the water. And not only are they poisoning that water for that seafood, but for us who live in this community, we are running out of drinking water. I don't know if you've ever seen the water that comes from sulfur, but when it comes out of the faucet, it looks like mud in many of the areas. Some areas, the water comes out of the faucet purple, yet we're paying a water bill every day for this water that we can't drink and having to go to the stores and buy water in plastic bottles, which contributes to plastic pollution. Also, when we think about how Louisiana is being impacted by industry. And I know we're supposed to be giving like an overview, but it's kind of hard when you're talking about it and trying to paint a picture with words. But that's what we do. We're storytellers, and telling stories is important. You think about the South. A lot of times people think that the South is behind, the South is slow, the South isn't involved, the South doesn't know what's happening to them. But we do know, and we are involved, and we are trying to speak up about what's happening because, in fact, The South is keeping the rest of the nation going. This is where they're planning to put all of this new industry, all of this new technology, such as data centers. And so we have to save the South, especially Louisiana and Texas, the Gulf Coast, in order to save the rest of the world. And I know that was really long, but I really wanted to premise this with that because sometimes we feel like we're not connected to the people, we're not connected to the place, we don't live there, it doesn't impact us. But as I always say, when it rains here in Louisiana, that toxic rain that's coming from those facilities and it evaporates into the cloud, we don't know where that rain is going to land next. We don't know because it is impacting each and every one of us. And so we all have to get involved.
Thank you so much for that. I think that really gave us a really good idea. And the point of this panel, right, is to be able to like connect, like you said, oh, you don't live in that part of the world, so it doesn't matter. It connects what's happening in your community to what's happening in Keyshawn's community to what's happening in Kundai's community. All of us here are affected and like will eventually be affected by the fossil fuel empire, so we need to talk and discuss about that. So thank you for that grounding. I'll pass it to Keyshawn to give us a quick 2 minute um, um, grounding in fossil fuels in your communities.
And this Keyshawn, right? Me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm never talking to someone, just you.
Okay. So first, and yeah, I have to be brief. My dad is a pastor, my mom's a teacher. And so I'm gonna just give you some quick points. In Memphis, my family has experienced devastating loss, and unfortunately, it's not uncommon. Everyone around me has experienced loss of family members or are dealing with folks who have cancer or are sick because of the amount of pollution that encircles us. In Southwest Memphis, we have 17 toxic release inventory facilities that include Valero Oil Refinery, a steel mill, XAI and their methane gas turbines, and the Tennessee Valley Authority's combined cycle plant that uses huge methane gas turbines. And so when you look at the amount of pollution that this one community has to live with, you see what the direct results are. A cancer rate that's 4.1 times the national average, claimed the lives of both of my grandmothers and multiple of my uncles and my aunts. Most recently, our community members who had sicknesses because of this. And then with the new pollution, unfortunately, we're not able to continue to survive with the comorbidities. And so there is a devastating amount of loss of life, of memories, and so much other intrinsic values that is happening in our backyards. And whatever happens in the South will permeate throughout the rest of the country and throughout the rest of the world, as has been true throughout all of history. And so I want us to continue to be mindful that there is a real cost and that what Empire is doing is an attempt at crushing our ability to hope for something different. And so it is our responsibility as a people who have seen resurrection happen through so many different lenses to continue to operate in that way. And so here in Memphis, we are up against the greatest threats to humanity, and we are still fighting back.
Thank you, Keyshawn. I'm really, really looking forward to hearing the ways with which you are fighting back because it's a beast, but our communities, our people are resilient by nature, right? So I want to pass it to Kundai to in the heart and the energy of South South, right? We're talking about Southern United States, but also global South, and bring your voice into the room so you can tell us about a quick 2 minute, because I know it could get long. Quick 2 minute brief summary about the harms of fossil fuel industry to your community, your nation.
Thanks, Cheryl, and thanks everybody for speaking and sharing their insights. So, from an African lens, the fossil fuel extraction, it's a two-sided kind of conversation, the head and the tail. The head being the fossil fuel extraction has been the source of energy for the longest time in Africa. Though we have other forms of energy like hydro, utilizing our dams and all that, one of the largest man-made lake in Africa being the one from Zimbabwe, Lake Kariba. It's actually providing it's been a very good source of water hydro. And now in terms looking at the multilateral engagements, Zimbabwe and Zambia are actually building up a a project called Batoka Project, where they are trying to be able to generate 2.3 gigawatt of energy from that Batoka project, right? So, and then when you look at the same aspect in Zimbabwe, we have coal resources, same as South Africa and other countries across Africa. Coal has actually been part and parcel of the energy mix. So there's the hydro, and then there's the coal feeding into the main grid to be able to provide energy, not only for household but for commercial use. Your mining that we talk about, your energy your agriculture that we talk about, and so on. They've also been relying on that. So fast forward, we are now talking about phasing out and phase down, and we have the national determined contributions. So these national determined contributions talks about emission reduction at some point, which is time bound and all that. So this is where now the aspect of coal now has implications. So in terms of our extraction, we are looking at okay, before I get into that, maybe just in brief, let me say a mining company is located at some area or space. It's never located in the main city. It's always located in the rural areas. So in terms of the positive, the mining companies have managed to do community development, where they put the roads, the infrastructure, be it education infrastructure, schools, hospitals, and all that as part of welfare for the people. But these are people in the rural areas. They also don't know the real value of the resource that they have. So it's more like you give me a $1, I say thank you, because I don't know that the value I carry is $10. But this $1 is able to at least cater for the basic needs that I'm looking at. Because remember, I'm in the rural areas, I don't need much. So there comes the issue of transparency and integrity between the community and the investment or the investor. And in my country, we are now having the mining and minerals bill reviewed, but the one that used to be there, the government does not interfere between the relationship of the investor and the community. So when you look at the aspects or issues around the fossil fuel extraction, the issue of transparency and integrity is very much like it's been very much lacking. And then on the positive side, we are talking about employment creation, we are talking about community development, and in some spaces, community they also have what they call community ownership share, where they have a certain percentage or share within the mine. But like I'm saying, if you don't know how much fish is in the ocean, you would think that 20 fish that can accommodate a meal is the one that is in the ocean. So this is the challenge that we're having on that flip side. So now, as we then talk about transition, for those people in the communities, they are looking at their welfare to then say, if this mine closes down, what happens to us? What happens to our children? What happens to the informal economy, the small businesses they have, and all that? So you find that when we talk about the discourse of effects of these fossil fuels or the just energy transition, the the perception of somebody who is living around the mine is different from the perception of somebody who is living in the city, where they don't even need to see, they don't even see any smoke coming from any mining operation at some point up until they get to that place. So those dynamics, those are the differences. Unfortunately, as I conclude, people in the city speak on behalf of people in the rural areas. It is what it is. We hope and pray that they speak from a point of humanity and integrity as well as transparency. Back to you, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think you perfectly highlighted one of the main one of the tactics in the paper that talks about like co-opting community members. Like you said, like you're thinking job creation, you're thinking money for your family, money to eat. So leaders in the community are like, this, this is a thing that's helping us, but it's also, and the coal companies, the fossil fuel companies, they know that, and they know that it's a matter of survival. So thank you for giving us that direct example from your community. And I'll pass it over to Kim.
Thank you so much. Yeah, our the fight that like my community is involved in is around a massive LNG facility in North Brooklyn. This is the largest like footprint of a fossil fuel facility in the state of New York. And the origin story of that is so I grew up in a couple different areas of rural Pennsylvania, one in suburban area of Pennsylvania, and um, the history of extraction in Pennsylvania from coal to steel. Now it's fracking. I went to high school with a lot of people that work in the fracking industry because they do capture it is very economic. It is a very racialized, industry that, captures people and preys upon their needs to survive. And now where my mom lives, there's, two main pipelines on either side of her, one carrying fracked gas liquids to a plastics manufacturer in Scotland, and another one which is the Williams-Nessie pipeline, which Anastasia and I came together on to come and discuss that pipeline here today. That pipeline starts in Pennsylvania, right near my childhood bus stop. But then it goes directly to New York City, where I live today and have lived for the past 25 years. That pipeline would go through New Jersey, go underneath the Raritan Bay, through the New York Harbor, completely carve up everything that has bioregenerated since the Clean Water Act passed in the 70s, and plug into frontline community on the Rockaway Peninsula, which is historically just, underfunded. And the when we were fighting that pipeline, we succeeded. 3 times the company kept coming back to reapply for a water quality permit. And what I learned in that fight was that was connecting to a larger network of intrastate um, gas networks, and connected to our local, not, well, they're not a local, they're a multinational, multi-billion dollar corporation posing as the local gas utility here called National Grid. And they were so excited about the Williams pipeline to come online that they started preemptively creating this huge new gas network throughout Brooklyn. And when I found out about that connection, I found that they were starting it in Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is one of the lowest income neighborhoods in the country. A predominantly Black community. And I had worked with a high school student there, on a solar project when he was in high school. And I reconnected with him and I said, this pipeline is starting in Brownsville, from the bigger pipeline. And now they're trying to carve up your neighborhood and connect it all the way across Brooklyn and really target Bed-Stuy, Bushwick, south side of Williamsburg, Greenpoint, and particularly in Greenpoint, directly across from a predominantly Black public housing complex where the LNG facility sits. So we all got to work on like putting up flyers, community organizing. We were able to sort of really pinpoint we followed the money, and we followed, we made the invisible visible on like, what is it that they're trying to do? We built a public facing map, and we exposed like exactly what they're doing. And they, of course, National Grid was going around, they were lobbying our government to approve the larger interstate pipeline. And, they were spending, giving all the surf clubs $2,000 here and there, giving computer centers to the NYCHA is the New York City Housing Authority, our public housing complex here. And, the tactics that you have all experienced, this is like a copy and paste. And, when we defeated that larger interstate pipeline, the Williams-Nessie pipeline, we felt very victorious in 2020. And now it's come back in 2025 under Donald Trump, who did a deal with our governor here. So we're sort of back to square one. But people are energized and they're pissed off. And so we're starting that fight all over again, on gas spreading out throughout downstate New York, including Long Island. And the gas companies particularly targeting the Shinnecock Nation and a
Mhm.
lot of predominantly Black communities in Long Island, which has a reputation of being like, the Hamptons and rich and white, but that's not, of course, where they're targeting. They're trying to build captive customers. So we're really
Mhm.
trying to connect the dots between the economic history of racism together with, our indigenous siblings, and we're going to work together to try to fight it again this time in 2026 because the utility company is coming back to ask for more money. They should be filing actually today. So
Wow.
we'll know exactly what they're going to be asking for. And, this all comes down to like, we see what's happening with, all the wars all over the place, and it's about,
Right.
extraction of resources. And so, how do we, as Rochetta was explaining, the local spices and the local foods, that's what makes it delicious, and that's what makes
Mhm.
it the spirit that you feel when you eat it. And so we know that building locally owned renewable power and overthrowing these corporate utilities is the way to go. And we know that we can build, um, more equitable communities that the industry, they're coming back. They know that we were winning and now they
Yeah.
want to come back and continue to like impose this like white supremacist terror onto communities. And so, I just want to acknowledge that I am a white panelist here, but I'm doing my best to continue to unlearn what I've been taught and to
Yeah.
relearn and reshape and recenter
Yeah.
how we go about messaging this fight.
You've really beautifully transitioned us honestly into the next portion. You all have laid out what is happening in your community. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. We need accomplices in the space, not just allies, but accomplices who stand beside us and are willing to fight alongside us. So we see you for that. But yeah, we want to talk about, to your point, about how we in our communities at the local level who are experiencing the brunt at, or who are at the helm of the problems are also the experts on what to do, on what the solutions are. And so I want to speak to a couple of things and just I'll go around to each panelist and kind of ask you all a couple of questions, recognizing the fact that we have less than 10 minutes. So we just want to make sure that we keep the answers concise. I know it's hard. I know it's challenging. Clearly, we need to do a part two. Give me some emojis if you think we need a part two, y'all. We need a part two. Come on. Okay, so let's talk about legacy. I see all the emojis. Thank y'all. Legacy versus corporate PR. So policy briefs and emissions data rarely defeat billion-dollar corporate public relations budgets on their own. Access across the United States, the Caribbean, and South Africa, our movements are rich with ancestral knowledge. How have you utilized creative storytelling, oral histories, or cultural organizing to cut through corporate deception and ground your breakthroughs in community legacy? Keyshawn, I want to know. You talked about your family, you talked about your community. I want to know how storytelling is helping to ground what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so the fight against the Bi-Haley Connection Pipeline was simply a story about two ideas of what Memphis could be and the trajectory that we were taking.
Mhm.
And it was a story about a community that had consistently been targeted, had been labeled a sacrifice zone. And it was a story about how our water was a unifying force because our community had continuously, as said before, been targeted, had 17 facilities already, right? But it was in this moment that people stood up and said no more. It was in this moment that we really talked about the danger that this oil pipeline would really bring to our Memphisan aquifer, right? And we are a municipality where 100% of our water is from the Memphisan aquifer underneath us. And so, with the understanding that our collective futures was on the line, right? That was a huge unifying factor. And that got us plenty of accomplices from all over the United States, but specifically right here in the wealthy parts of Memphis, where you don't normally see rich people and white people and black people and rich people and poor people together fighting against something, there was a shared story about the future that we could have and that we could build if we resisted this pipeline. And that is what made it real. And we saw how people power overtook everything. And they have money, right? But we have the people. And that has always proved to be the deciding factor in so much of our history. And so I was so glad to be a part of that continuation with the Byhalia pipeline. And we won. We defeated it in 9 months.
Hello?
Shortest pipeline fight in history, Black community led. And so we took all of the knowledge, though, that we learned from our indigenous folks and our native families in our area and abroad about how they fought pipelines, right? So it's not isolated. We need each other in all of
Yeah.
this. And when we do count on each other, and when we do show up for each other, and when we do consistently believe,
Yeah.
change happens.
Come on. I could hear the preacher coming on now. I was holding myself to throw my shoe. Okay, not too much comments. Let me get so I can get to the next questions. This question is to Kundai. You've all achieved transformational wins by disrupting the extractive economy. As we advance a systemic just transition, what does that actually look like when translated across your very different geographic contexts? What is one non-negotiable political demand our global movement must unite behind to ensure that no community is left behind as a sacrifice zone? 2 minutes if you can. I know that's a big
So,
question.
so no problem. The 2 minutes are really enough. Just transition should be anchored on equality as a level of playing field before we start anything else. So debt cancellation becomes critical for Africa because if we are to transit, everybody will need money. But for us, for Africa, we are already carrying a burden of a debt from somewhere else, historical debt. So if that debt is not cancelled, then it means our whatever that we're talking about, there's no equality in it. In other words, we are talking about a form of development that is still going to enhance the forms of inequality that exist between the global north and the global south, in particular, in this case, Africa. So the starting point should be debt must be all historical debt must simply be cancelled, to simply say even if you had $20 million debt, you are now having zero. Then everyone goes on zero, and then we start. So that makes everything equal, and that then speaks to equality, which is also part of the SDGs that the global north have spearheaded. So yeah, that's what I would say. To
Thank you so much. And we have that in the Global Afro platform. That's part of reparations to us. Cancel all debts. In fact, you owe us while we're at it. You owe us. So thank you for that grounding for a fossil fuels economy that's literally built on slave plantation system. To Royshetta, you are a mother, you are a teacher, you are a storyteller, you are an organizer, you wear so many hats. As a Black woman, as a Black femme who is in leadership, women and femmes are consistently anchoring energy justice and community resilience, and yet are frequently underrepresented in the actual energy ministries and governance. We saw it right here in Santa Marta in person. So tell me, how do we move beyond simply acknowledging this labor and ensuring our leadership is structurally embedded and resourced in the infrastructure of our new economy, of this new world that we are building?
Okay, let me start by apologizing that this may take longer than 2 minutes, but I'm gonna go as fast as I can because I started off by saying that I'm on sabbatical. I'm on sabbatical, but then I received an email asking me to do this. And of course, I couldn't say no because this is important. And that's how we feel as Black women, as Black femmes, that we can't say no because our lives are at stake, because the world is literally on fire and it's going to take us to save it. And so it's hard to say no. It's hard to step back because we know that we have to be at the front. We're the most threatened. We're the most impacted. Our communities are on the front line. And so if we say no and sit back, and then who is going to protect us? If we go to sleep, what's going to be happening while we're asleep? And so that's how we feel. Is that right? No, it's not, because I should be able to tag my sister Cheryl in. I should be able to tag my sister Kim in. I should be able to tag Keyshawn in and say, hey, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. You got this. You can handle it. But that's not the case in many, in many cases, because I'm on sabbatical. But yesterday, the Supreme Court was making this decision that directly impacts me and my community. And so then I was like, okay, should I make a post on Facebook? Should I do this? What should I do? I need to do something. We need to protest. I need to go to the That's how we feel. We feel like something is always on fire, and if we don't do something, then we are the ones who are going to be, laying in the street, murdered, killed, dead. Um, Elevating the voices of women in films and energy justice starts with acknowledging our contributions, starts with acknowledging that we are tired, starts with acknowledging that we need rest, starts with acknowledging that the very people fighting are the very people impacted, and that we have no money and no resources. We advocate for our representation in decision making processes, and ensure that we have the access and the resources that we need, because without it, we can't fight, right? I don't know if you've ever thought about this in this context, and I know Keyshawn can probably relate, being from the South, because I'm from Mississippi, not far from Memphis. I'm a relative of Fannie Lou Hamer, as you all know. But sometimes when we go to the refrigerator, there's nothing in there. But as a Black woman, as a Black mother, as a Black femme, we can make a full course meal with the empty refrigerator. That is what we're literally doing in this fight. We have nothing, yet we continue to produce wins, yet we continue to be able to feed the neighbor that we went and knocked on their door and they had no food on the table. We had to feed them before they started marching with us. We continue to pay the light bills and the rent of the people who have to be the very voices to fight. We have to create programs and, for a lack of better terms, pipelines for resources for women who are out here fighting. I'm a mom of 6. I have a grandson. I just lost a son. I am so grateful for the community who has wrapped themselves around me and said, sis, you need to rest. You need to grieve. This is a part of grief. This is a part of the journey. I'm so thankful, especially for my sister Jackie, who reached out, who's been there, for the ones who showed up at my son's funeral, some who never met my son before, but who know me because of my fight. I'm so grateful for people like Justin Pearson, who is in the documentary with me, Gaslit, and other documentaries that we've done. I'm so grateful for these connections, but we need more people recognizing that the folks on the front lines are the people with the solutions, and we cannot get to the solutions without the support and the resources, without creating programs, without actually allowing people to rest and not bother them while they're resting, but allow them to actually rest, without creating programs for folks to get professional development. Like, I always think about you, if you find this small organization that's doing this work, that's being led by women who are used to running their household, they're going to run this program like a household, right? They're going to make sure it's cleaned up. They're going to make sure people are fed, people are taken care of. Support that. Understand that as a funder, that is what needs to be supported, and that the win is going to come. We don't have time to be sitting there doing all this paperwork for all this reporting. Go to that community and see those results in real time. Go meet the people in real time and see that I'm not just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Cheryl don't know me because I was laying in my bed. Anastasia don't know me because I was laying in my bed. I'm out there in the streets working. So when I finally decide to rest, don't use that and say, oh, well, she don't want to work. Oh, she don't want to do anything. No, we're not lazy. We've been working our whole lives. We work every day. We work while we're sleeping. Support it so we can continue to have these wins. Ensure that you are fostering inclusivity, and ensure that you're making sure that the person that you're depending on and leaning on is taken care of. Because if I die today, there's still going to be a fight tomorrow. So I have to take care of myself today so that I can be ready to fight tomorrow. And I need everybody's support. And I'm just saying me, but that is true for all Black women and all Black femmes.
We are sending you so much love. We felt your spirit. We are grieving with you. We are showing up with you. We're in arms with you. And I just want to thank you for your presence here today. I want to thank all of you for your presence here today. We are going to do a part 2. that's without a doubt. I mean, we need more time to really deeply go into these conversations because the work that you are all doing and what you're a part of is so important. We are at the top of the hour. I do recognize that this is when we said the call was going to be over, but we have a really quick 2-minute video that is going to launch a competition. You know, we love a good competition at Chisholm. That is going to have for the ability to create something creative for the fossil fuel foolery. So with that, I will pass it to Keyshawn to show the example.
Yeah, we want the beat though. Harold or any oil mogul, they a free throw. Babies down, smoke all in their lungs, they can't breathe, bro. Fossil fools out here walking around, look like Dono. What's up with you fossil fools trying to match our flow? The industry hate on us, but we can't stoop that low. How many tricks you really got? So many makes your head turn. Better watch your back though, you headed for a sick burn. But will it hurt bad enough for you to learn? We don't like them, we don't like them, we don't like them. And they don't like us, they don't like us, they don't like us. You think we won't let you disrespect the frontline they call? NBEJ and its members gonna cease your role. Have you heard the stories coming from the fire people's hearing? Your days are never on the path that you've been steering. Whoa, the kids are not dumb. Speak your stories as you please. Hate tracks, they got none. We all know the road to hell is pure with dirty fossil fuels. Ain't that something total stands for total earth destruction, fool? Sometimes you gotta pop out exposing them. Certified frontliners, EJ and up the score with them. Wake it up, whole time you know who's extolling them. Call them out, cut the EJ got the jump with them. Say Duke, I hear you like the front. Don't cross out North Carolina coalition. To anyone thinking big oil's on your side, better watch your back before they betray your hide. You think you got us fooled like we need this war? Trust that we can see what all this death is really for. Big OGC, cooking us like we in a bakery. Certified green tech, certified fakery. Wop, 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 wop. You can't shut us up. Wop, 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 wop. You can't do our stuff. Why you trolling like you care? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, strike a match, cause you're a fire. Yeah. We don't like them, we don't like them, we don't like them. And they don't like us, they don't like us, they don't like us. They're sham, they're sham, they're sham, they're sham, they're sham, they're sham.
Period. That I didn't title it properly. We don't like them fossil fuel diss track. Don't let the fossil fuel industry hear that one, because hey, they're gonna feel attacked. This marks the launch of the competition. Um, Anastasia, are we giving details about that now? I'm so sorry. Or Jackie?
It's in
Okay.
the chat. Yeah.
It's in the chat. It's in the chat. It's in the chat. So, y'all, with that, click the link, check it out, send it to your friends, be a part of it. We speak to each other in the language that we can understand. We understand the language of music, creativity, skits, etc. So, yeah, be a part of this. It's really exciting. And thank you all again to our amazing panelists for this conversation. I literally am walking away from this feeling so inspired and so ready to continue on in this fight that we're all in together. So, with that, we will see you on the next time, and everybody have a beautiful rest of your Thursday. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.